Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, brought to you by Relai Private. This week we got some exciting news, especially for open source developers, but also for people who like to analyze the Bitcoin on-chain data. News number one, kick off with a major announcement by the Bitcoin network, because we've now surpassed 1 billion transaction on-chain. That is everything that's happening and settling on-chain. So bear in mind, there might be even million more transactions in the Lightning Network. You also have the likes of all of these side chains that are somehow pegged to Bitcoin. So if you would have combined all of that, we would have been at a significant higher number. But for now, having 1 billion transaction on the main chain proves the point that Bitcoin is much more than just a speculation tool. You don't have to fight the arguments anymore that we're like magic internet money, that is money used by criminals for drugs and all of that stuff. Having 1 billion transaction is a major milestone. By the way, it took Visa 25 years to get there. It took the Bitcoin network 15 years. So we took 10 years off Visa. And if you cross that 1 billion threshold, you can't really call it a fad anymore. At this point, it has its use case, whether that be to settle international transfers, whether that be to store your wealth, to have something if you need to flee a country instead of having something physical. Whatever it is, Bitcoin is there, and it is the ultimate hedge against all of these things. And now with 1 billion transaction on chain, I think we can safely say that we are getting places. So looking forward to the next couple of billion. Then the second news are not really Bitcoin centric, but the result out of them is very positive for Bitcoin. And that is that slowly but surely you start seeing platforms in the US, but also all over the world, getting more and more pressured by regulators to basically call every altcoin project under the sun a security. Because guess what? At the end of the day, that's what they are. They've all been founded either in a pre-mine or in a pre-sale. They've had investors on board early. There's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to have investors. There are also Bitcoin companies who have investors. But the thing is, the moment you give them shares into your company and you redeem them in your token, aka your stock, into that company, that is a security. That is what securities are, and that's how they've been defined for a century at this point. So it's very interesting that now we see more and more pressure by these regulators, and especially also like Michael Saylor, for example, last week quoting that he thinks ETH will be called a security by the end of May. I'm not so sure about that, because this whole ETH as a security thing has been going back and forth for a while now. But it is interesting that he's choosing this time to state this, while at the same time, the SEC, for example, is charging or speaking out about charges against platforms like Robinhood, various exchanges, and that they've obviously been hitting the hammer down hard from above, and that they want to get this altcoins are securities through as fast as possible. At the end of the day, this is a very good thing for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the commodity. It's the digital commodity in space. Countless officials have already said this for a number of years now. And if we can now differentiate Bitcoin by it being a commodity and all of the rest being securities, I think this will inevitably also help us in the long run. And then last but definitely not least, we also have some news for FOSS developers, so free and open source developers. OpenSats, which is a foundation that has been founded by various Bitcoin influential people and some of the developers, even protocol developers, to basically have a pot where people can donate money to and support free and open source development. One of the most prominent supporters is Jack Dorsey, and he announced this week that he will donate $21 million to actually help further and support the free and open source community, as well as freedom protocols, as he likes to call it, such as Nostr. And in case you're worried, like, ooh, foundation, centralized entity and all of these things, no, the foundation is actually set up decentralized, where you have a lot of shareholders in it, you have a lot of board oversight, and without any approval of the entire board, it's impossible to actually get something done. So a very powerful tool, very tax efficient for people in the US as well. If they donate, they can even reduce this from their taxes. And also it's a very efficient and a very safe way for Bitcoin projects to actually get funding, to work closely with experts, and to, further push their products. And that's it. We're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, want to say hi, leave it in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you next week again.